All right, good morning, mates. We are on the road. Another adventure. We are transitioning from July Susquehanna Upper Potomac into August Shenandoah River, baby. Okay, back home, crossing the Potomac River, heading back home. What I mean by home, I mean where I grew up. So we are on the road this morning, Leesburg. Route 7. Route 7 is the road off that I grew up on, growing up as a young lad before moving to Richmond and fishing the James River in the 80s. So I grew up in Loudoun County, so I'm home pretty much. On our way to Clark County, actually, out Route 7. And the river, actually, if you look at a lot of stuff that's going down, going into the weekend, man, 1.2, I think the front Royal gauge is about 1.3. It's in the range between 1.2 and 1.69, which is a very low condition, which means most of the outfitters, if you're unfamiliar with the Shenandoah River has a ton of outfitters, from canoes to kayaks to everything, all tubes, everything up and down that river. I mean, it's huge economic activity for that river and those counties, for all that. And so this water level, I mean, even Millville is West Virginia. So if you cross up, if you're downstream from crossing Virginia into West Virginia on the Shenandoah River, you've got the Millville Dam. You've got that up there. Even it's at like 2 feet. So we're talking about really low water. So, you know, what normally happens is the outfitters actually don't, you know, have or host all of their normal activities when the water levels are this low, just because of, you know. And the other thing from anglers' perspective, you know, if you talk to people who or spend a lot of time on the river, you'll know that if you don't pre-fish, if you're fishing the Shenandoah, for example, for a tournament this weekend or a tournament in the next 2 weekends, really in August, you have really no way of gauging exactly your float time, because when you don't have current flow, like right now, a current flow, in terms of like the cubic feet, I think it's like 546 or 48 in Front Royal. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, with Virginia and Front Royal and the Shenandoah, you've got the confluence of the North Fork and Maine coming into Front Royal. Okay, so that's kind of how they kind of meet there, and then you get the South Fork. So you got South Fork, North Fork, and then Maine. It goes up towards West Virginia as the river flows. So Front Royal gauge is a good area, you know, good thing to kind of just gauge the overall, and then you kind of bookend it with Millville if you're fishing those levels. And so you really can't do these longer floats. I mean, and like at these low level conditions, because of the time. Like, it's not when you don't have current flow and you don't have like water level like 3 feet or so, the amount of time it's going to take you to do your normal float is going to increase at these lower level conditions, because you're going to be hitting rocks, you're going to be walking a lot, you're going to be going through shallower areas, you're going to get, you know, that's just how it is. And so you gotta kind of gauge that a little bit before tournament day, for those fishing in tournaments, absolutely, or your day's gonna get wrecked, because that's just how the river is, right? The river changes every day, mates. I tell people that all the time. Okay, people ask why you fish the river so much, because it's different every day, unlike your lake and your reservoir. You know, your lake and your reservoir and your impoundment, depending on water, if you have a dam and they're you know, releasing water and all that, okay, obviously you can make that argument that there's a change there. But most lakes and ponds aren't changing on a daily basis like rivers, okay? And so it's a good idea to get out. For me, I always like to, and the Shenandoah is a tough one because it's just different. It's a different river than Susquehanna, Upper Potomac. I pretty much have 2 or 3 really good spots to marked in the middle of the river to camp. Okay, so you can camp in Susquehanna. You can camp right in the middle of the river. Okay, pack out your kayak, the bunch of boom, and you can stay right in the middle on one of the islands in those rivers. Shenandoah is not really, in a lot of stages, provides that opportunity. There's a lot more campgrounds. There's a lot of campgrounds going down the Shenandoah, obviously, that you could stay at. But there's not that many. There's not, compared to like Susquehanna and Upper Potomac, there's not that many islands, right, that aren't private or that aren't managed or whatever, that you can actually camp in the middle of overnight on your floats and no one's going to care. And so, between that area, and a lot of it's because a lot of the area is, some of it's developed now and all that stuff. So you got to scout that out, and you got to find that out so you can, have a really enjoyable weekend and being on the river, and then bookending your tournament in the middle of that. It really, really provides you that opportunity. So that's the plan for today. Is check out a section on the Shenandoah River. See how that section's fishing. See how that section is composition. Check out the forage species. Do a little bit of biology work for an article I'm going to be writing coming up. And so, that's really it. No idea what to expect in terms of number of people out. In this particular stage, I'm at the top end, crossing over from Maryland into Northern Virginia. And hitting Route 7. I'm not sure how far I'll go down today. It really all depends. We're at like 82 degrees already this morning. I'm really hoping for some scattered showers. That would be awesome. Cool things a little bit. If it makes it more humid. If it was in the 90s, it would probably make it more humid, which is not a good thing on the river. Coming off the river after, a couple hours. So that's what we're doing. I hope everybody is getting ready to have a great weekend. Remember, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe to the YouTube channel, JL Scott Fishing and Eats, because we are in August now, and we are going to start to get things rolling. We're going to be giving away to our subscriber list at least one custom bait a week. And you're not going to find most of these custom baits you're not going to find anywhere. A lot of them we're having specifically made for the custom bait box, okay, coming up in the fall of 2022. And so we're really, really stoked about that. Using all the information from what we've learned on the rivers this year, on the lakes and impoundments in the Mid-Atlantic and really the Northeast, and taking the information that we've been blessed to have been provided by a lot of competitive anglers in the kayak community from a lot of the events around the country, to be able to create some custom baits focused on these areas, right? That are really targeting in what was, the bite, okay, in terms of crankbaits, in terms of soft plastics, in terms of buzz baits, jigs, spinner baits, all that. And so we can create that box of 5 or 6 custom baits in a box every month. And so we are really, really stoked, looking forward to that. The baits coming and the baits for that are just going to be lights out. Incredible. So that's all I'm going to say in terms of that, and in terms of value to people. That's been really the knock forever. When you talk to people, is this, and I can't spend $20 on a crankbait, on a custom crankbait, or I can't spend, $15 on in it. And that's been a big problem for a long time, but we're starting to bring that together and change that so it's a more value-added proposition for anglers to move towards more custom baits. And then the whole point really is for that to find a unique bait from a custom bait maker, and then be able to have a relationship with that custom bait maker. Like, they can contact that custom bait maker and be like, man, I really dig this. Can you paint me one? Can you paint me a crankbait in a square bill, 1.5, boom, boom, boom? Or can you make me a jig that's this, or a buzz bait that's got this? All this kind of stuff is opening the dialogue between the angler and the bait making community, the custom bait maker community. Okay, and that's really the important component of the project. Is rolling out the custom bait box, is it is in order to promote small business. It is to promote the people, the thousands of people that are making quality baits and tackle that catch fish, okay, that aren't at ICAST. They aren't at the national, symposiums. They aren't at Bass Pro. They aren't at Dick's. They aren't at Academy yet. They're not big enough to be able to meet that order supply, but, they are making quality baits that they can work with individual anglers. And I'm telling you now, there are literally dozens of professional anglers out there using some of these baits, okay? And that's just the way it is, because they want to win tournaments, okay? They may not, a lot of these small bait makers, don't have the capital resources to sponsor, major anglers. And a lot of the smart anglers, especially the younger anglers, understand that. Like that it's a long-term vision for people and relationships that, because we all know it only takes one major tournament for someone to win that tournament on a custom bait from a custom bait maker to blow that custom bait maker up. We all know that. God, if a custom bait maker produces a bait that wins the Bassmaster Classic, like, we all know what's going to happen. The demand is going to skyrocket for that particular bait maker's product because it won an event for an angler, okay? And dozens of guys throw these things. I've got baits that I paint, baits that I jigs, okay, crankbaits and soft plastics that are thrown by anglers on competitive tournament tours, whether they're opens, whether they're BFL, whether they're Tackle Warehouse, Toyota, whatever they are, okay? Like, they're people moving up, okay? There are people from the opens that move into the Bass Elite Series and they take their baits with them. And so it's not all just about the top guys that you see on TV in terms of the major brands that are sponsoring them, because they're already there, right? It's not necessarily those guys. It's other guys. And then you also have professional anglers that actually make their own baits, pour their own jigs on the Bass Elite Series right now. They pour their own jigs. It's the coolest thing in the friggin' world to finally have, well-known professional anglers that talk about bait making, not just fishing and angling, right? They talk about bait making, okay? So it's those communities coming together instead of there being like this wall between them, which we know is a big box store or is an online tackle shop, right? Like that's a big box store online, right? Like that there's a wall between them that now they're coming together and talking with one another. And that's really what we want. That's the vision behind the custom bait box and why we're doing what we're doing, is to elevate everybody's game in order for them to catch their best five, right? That's what B5 custom tackle is. It's producing the baits that will get you your best five, okay? Because that's pretty much what we do, what angling and tournament angling are gay by. What's your best five, right? Whether it be in a live well, whether it be catch, photo, release, whatever it be, whatever format tournament you got for those people, that's what it comes down to. So that's where we're at. Again, grabbing some coffee, grabbing some breakfast, a little 83 degrees this morning, going to be out on the Shenandoah. Really happy to be back in Virginia, and we'll see how it goes. I know it's going to be a tough bite this weekend. I know, probably for the next week we're going to be still at low water levels unless I know it rained last night up in Maryland and PA and upper West Virginia, so we'll see what happens with water levels in our major river systems here August. But man, the last week and a half to two, and it's just been under 2 feet, under 2.2 feet in a lot of places in a lot of multiple rivers. So man, it's just been kind of crazy. Would like to see 3.5 feet. I would love to get on a spinnerbait bite, small compact custom spinnerbait bite, if the water can just move from 1.5 feet to 3 feet in a couple days, and we start getting that rising water, that is a perfect time to throw the spinnerbait on your river systems. All right, mates,